The Steelers run the lowest amount of quarters coverage in the NFL. They're right around 6% in total usage. When they do run the coverage, they are a top 10 unit. Pittsburgh's system is zone based, and though they don't run many quarter snaps, some techniques translate from their base cover three. Against the Browns, the Steelers ran more split field coverage than expected due to Cleveland's ability to throw the ball with Jameis Winston under center and the emergence of Jerry Jeudy as a legitimate deep threat. Let's look at one particular quarter snap that illustrates the Steelers' proficiency in the coverage. So a couple things about the Pittsburgh defense that we need to know is one, their middle of the field disguise rate is one of the lowest in the league. In fact, it's at 19%, sitting right at fourth place in terms of the NFL. So what you see is in the shell is typically what you're going to get. From that too, they run some of the lowest amounts of split field coverage. In fact, they're right behind Cleveland for 31st in the NFL. They run it at about 24%. But when they do, again, going back to that quarters, when they do, they're the number 2 team in EPA per play when they are in split field coverage. They're right behind the San Francisco 49ers. So when they do run split field coverage, they are really good at it. They just don't run it very much at all. It's about a quarter of their entire scheme. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at this 12 personnel play here from the Browns. What we're going to get up top is we're just going to get a spacing scheme, and then we're just going to get a fade out. But we're going to kind of or really a stick with an out. We're going to walk through this whole thing. So the first thing that we want to identify, again, we're going to run quarters. It's quarters on both sides. But what we want to identify, I call this a dirty bunch. So these 3 receivers here, this is actually going to be a bunch set. So we want to treat this like a bunch. We want to make sure that we have a bunch check. This is going to become important because we're going to actually see how they run this. We're going to get a typical box. So the corner's going to work. He's going to work vertical of 1. Safety's going to work vertical inside. He's going to take number 2 vertical. We're going to get both of our linebackers are going to kind of pull the chain. We're going to get our outside linebacker here. He's going to pull. We're going to get our other one. He's going to kind of post up. And then what that does though, is that kind of sets this where he's going to have to take 2 back. And then obviously he's going to take 2 to the flat. So what we're going to get on this side at the bottom is all we're going to get is a speed out. And then we're going to get a vertical push, but he's going to end up sitting us down. So the nickel's actually going to push out with this. The corner's going to take all of 1 because that's what his rule is in that. What we want to focus on is 1, we want to look at the box over here, but we also want to watch this safety and how he plays. He plays what I call a sway technique on the hash. So let's start with the top. Let's start with the bunch side first. So as Winston gets the ball, you can see how we are creating a nice box. Now that corner is not necessarily jumping out. So if you're sitting here and you're like, well, how are you defining this as quarters and why are you not defining this as a cover 2? The cover 2 really is any time that we are going to get this overlap from this outside linebacker in this corner here, that would be a signifier of quarters. He's not bailing out of there, 1, because it's a tight end. We're not scared of a vertical here. He's going to sit on anything short. Now, this is another good example too of like how this works. So you're going to get this linebacker who's going to post up here. And then anytime we get this in route, this is a really good, what they're trying to do is essentially get him to sit down. That's going to bring the attention of the corner. The eyes of the linebacker are actually going out. So he's going to see this and he's going to start clamping. We get the clamp here. We're expanding over the zone. So the quarterback's looking at this and he's seeing the back of the defender. And so when you see the back of the defender, you know this little thin route or this dig route, this quick dig is going to be open. So we're going to see the safety kind of nailed down on top of that. Let's go back to the top and let's watch the safety's technique here. So he's really not going to backpedal. He's going to do what I call a stair step. So he's actually just going to shuffle in. Once he sees this break of the shoulder, you can see he's already primed to attack the top. And that's essentially what we're going to get. He's going to break. He's going to drive and he's going to almost pick this off. This is a really good play up top. So again, let's go back from the start. We're going to get our box. Corner's going to shuffle, stay on the top shoulder. Once he sees it, he's going to nail down. Safety's going to stair step to the middle of the field because, again, he's protecting the middle of the field. Anytime you get 2 receivers in the same proximity in a stack, they're going to break. And if they're on different levels, then they're probably going to break the same way. And we know that this is going to be an in-breaking route. So if you're sitting here and you're like, well, that's not an in-breaking route. Well, you have an outside linebacker, so they're optioning this thing. He's just going to squat, give the quarterback a window. They throw the dig. Really nice job. Now let's transition to the other side. We're going to get essentially basically just a fade out. Now, if you're wondering why this doesn't turn into a fade, it's if I'm capped, I snap. That's the rule here. So he's capped by the corner, so he knows he's going to snap down. And you see this a lot, these conversions a lot in the NFL. So as soon as we get to about 10 yards, he sees I'm capped. There's no way I can beat this corner one-on-one. So I'm going to snap and I'm going to give my quarterback a window. Now we know it goes to the dig, but you can see how this creates an opening for him. So again, let's watch this. We get a nice little jam with the linebacker here. We get a nice little jam, and then he's going to just ride the hip right here. Notice how he's got the hand on the hip. He's going to ride the hip with the eyes back. Now, what I really like is about this safety. Now, one of the least taught ways in this quarters is how to play this safety. Because a lot of times, if you get this, you're just telling them in palms, especially, you're telling that safety just roll out and you got the fade. This is quarters. This isn't palms, right? So we're playing it like cover four. You really want that safety to really pack that hash. So as he's seeing this, he's seeing the quarterback look the other way. Even though he gets an out, he's already planting and driving on this. So let's say that this is elongated, right? Let's say that they run a drive concept with this, that he's really more of a shallow and he's pushing a little bit taller. What can happen is you can get drained out by this. So if we get this fade route and you're telling him, hey, deeper in the deepest, we don't want him just backpedaling to oblivion, and we don't want him to try and go cap this fade. That's what the corner's job is. That's what that corner is paid to do, defend fades. What he can do instead is start working in to close this post. And this is how you can close the post, even though you're running split field coverage or even though you're running quarters. Once two goes out, I'm going to snap my eyes to one. One's broke the plane. He's outside. He's running towards that red line. Once I see that he's running towards that red line, remember that red line's that imaginary line that you see on offensive practice fields of where that receiver needs to stack for a fade. Once I see that and his shadows on this side of the numbers, then I can start working back in and get my vision come back inside. That's where we're going to see this dig. And then I'm able to go clamp down on that. So this is a quick dig. This is more of a spacing concept than anything, but you can see how that safety really is not attempting to either backpedal or work to that fade. He's actually working back into the post, and that's what we see here. So just really nice overall play by the Steelers. And you see why even when they run split field, they're one of the better teams doing it, because a lot of these techniques translate. This is no different than a buzz tag or a poach tag or a cross tag in cover three. He's backpedaling, working off vision. He's not taking anything out, and it's kind of similar to what he would do in a cover three. Both of our corners are playing as though they're playing match on one. He's bailing into a third, right? So even though we're getting quarters, we're getting a lot of translatable techniques from zone cover three into quarters. And this is a good example of why they can seamlessly go when there is no drop off when they do run these split field coverages. So again, really nice job here by the Pittsburgh Steelers.